Assalamu alaikum. Let's cook. Okay, people, we're going to tell the story of Rosalie Ingram and her sons. Now, this story takes place on November 4th of the year 1947 in a place called Ellaville, Georgia. Now, Rosalie Ingram, she was a widowed sharecropper, mother of 12, hardworking black woman, a widow, doing it on her own. Her husband passed away, her and her children trying to make it. Now, on November 4th, 1947, a confrontation broke out between Rosalie Ingram and her white neighbor, John Ephraim Stratford. Now, this guy right here got pissed because some of Rosalie Ingram's livestock went into his field. So the white man, John Stratford, he threatened Rosalie Ingram with a rifle and a knife. He also said some derogatory things of a sexual nature to her as well. And Rosalie Ingram has said that this man, John Stratford, often harassed her after her husband died, saying things like she needs a new man and, sexual derogatory things and stuff like that, etc. Okay? So this man, John Stratford, when this went down and her livestock went on his land, they had a few words. He then struck Rosalie Ingram with the butt of his rifle, smacked her with it. So Rosalie, she starts to fight this man, John Stratford, fight him off. In the meantime, some of her sons could hear their mom outside fighting. Remember, she's got 12 kids. So like any human would, some of her sons ran over there to help their mother. And eventually, one of her sons beat John Stratford to death with his own rifle. Okay, beat the man to death with his own rifle, defending his mother. So people, go figure, a black woman and her sons killing a white man in Georgia in the year of 1947. You can imagine what happens next. So Rosalie Ingram is arrested along with 3 of her teenage sons, 17-year-old Charles, 16-year-old Wallace, and 14-year-old Sammy Lee. Now, they were all placed in separate jails and were not provided any legal counsel. Local authorities later said that Rosalie, Wallace, and Sammy Lee revised their initial account about this altercation with the white neighbor while they were in custody. So they're saying it's too many inconsistencies. So the authorities were trying to say, oh, well, first you all said 1 confrontation occurred, then you said it's 2. How many was it? Did you chase him? Did you run after him? This, and that, basically trying to really trip these black people up so that they can all go to prison forever. Now, they're all being charged with murder, but they didn't get any legal counsel until the day before the trial. This incident happened originally on November 4th, 1947. They didn't get legal counsel until January 25th, 1948, and the trial started January 26th, 1948, the next day. They didn't get legal counsel until the day before trial. So people, at this trial, basically it was a bunch of local sheriffs and stone-faced white authorities saying that the Ingrams are lying. They keep changing their story. There's a sheriff named J.E. Devane. He told the jury that the Ingrams followed this man, John Stratford, and beat him to death with several farming tools. So they're basically saying this can't be self-defense because they chased this man down. They're the aggressors, kind of like them Chinese people in the situation in South Carolina, people? Right? They can't be the aggressors because they're chasing them. But anyway, in addition, you have to remember, people, the white media is here. And when things like this happen, these people form Pell Voltron. They all get on board. They don't care about right or wrong. They only care about whiteness. That's it. That's it. That's how they operate. So they were reporting that some farming tools like a claw hammer and a hoe were used during the attack to beat this man to death, but this was a lie. The son Wallace Ingram said, we only used the butt of a rifle, the same butt of a rifle that he used on my mom. Smacked him in the head with it and he died. Miss Rosalie Ingram had the same story, despite the fact that these authorities tried to say that they were all lying. She took the gun from him, struck him in the head, bam. Her son came through, struck him in the head too, boom, just for that. Yeah, you hit my mom with this gun, we gonna smack you. Yeah, you already know. That was the consistent story between the Ingrams, although the local authorities tried to trip them up and lie on them. Outcome to the trial. All white male jury, white judge in Georgia. All 3 are guilty of murder. Sentenced them to death. The next day, one of the sons by the name of Charles Ingram, he was acquitted due to insufficient evidence. So it's Rosalie Ingram and two of her other sons now. They're all scheduled to die on February 27, 1948. A motion for a new trial stayed their execution and was taken under advisement by the judge. So they're not going to be executed yet. Now, the news got around about this situation, and this conviction didn't sit right with a lot of people. Many people believe that this was an innocent black woman whose sons came to her defense against a man who had physically assaulted her. The man smacked her with the butt of his gun. So black press outlets started to chime in and report about this. The Atlanta Daily World, different civil rights organizations, including the NAACP, by the name of Clayton R. Yates. He's the black owner of Yates and Milton Drug Store, and he's the chairman of the board of Citizens Trust Company, which is now Citizens Trust Bank. There were other women activist organizations who stepped in, the National Committee to Free the Ingram Family, and the Sojourners for Truth and Justice. They stepped in as well. Now, as this case is going on in the 1940s and 50s, the Atlanta Daily World showed Rosalie Ingram and her plight with her sons on the front page of their newspaper frequently. Now, this is the largest circulating black Southern newspaper during the first half of the 20th century. So the Atlanta Daily World is a big deal. Now, on Sunday, March 28th, 1948, the Atlanta Daily World, they wrote that President Truman had just learned of Rosalie Ingram's situation the previous Thursday when he was asked at a press conference whether he had heard about this case. The president had not heard about this case. And Rosalie Ingram and her sons were originally scheduled to die on February 27th, 1948. So people were pouring in with the money now. They're sending money to the Atlanta Daily World office for the Ingram family. This money was forwarded to the Citizens Defense Committee in Americus, Georgia, headed by somebody named Dr. R.S. Douthert. Now, this Ingram case, it struck a chord in all parts of the world. I mean, the United States, parts of the world, even with black celebrities. There was a rally that held there was a big rally that was held demanding that President Truman and Georgia Governor Melvin Thompson release the Ingrams. So the Ingrams appealed the case, and when they appealed in 1948, the Georgia courts reduced the death sentences to life imprisonment, but didn't take any further action. Okay? You're not getting a new trial. Now you just get life in prison. That was it. But it didn't stop there, though, people. The NAACP, the CRC, the Sojourners for Truth and Justice, the National Committee to Free the Ingram Family, and all other kinds of organizations stepped in. They kept on fighting. Finally, Rosalie, Wallace, Samuel Lee Ingram, they were released from prison on August 26, 1959. People, they were in jail for 11 years. You can see how big them boys got. I mean, from one picture to the next, that's 11 years. They went from being teenagers to big men, you know. And Rosalie Ingram, she lived in Atlanta until her death in 1980. Salute to the Ingram family. Rosalie Ingram and her sons were beating the brakes off that white man who disrespected their mother. He got what he deserved. Sometimes you just gotta be willing to die when things like that happen. Like, what are you supposed to do if you see your mom with her face all swelled up or whatever, some white man or some man, period, then bust her in the head with a gun? You're gonna do something. You're gonna do something quick and not think about the consequences. That's what these young men had to do for their mother. They were only teenagers and they did it. Okay? Now, this is a good ending, I believe, man. Anytime a black person defends themselves and kills somebody, especially a white person, and they're in the right and they're not lynched for it, good outcome, man. They did sit in jail for 11 years. They shouldn't have, but they did live and they got out. You know, the sad part of it is, look at all the stuff that had to be done. Suppose there was no Atlanta World Press. Suppose the editor was scared and said, we don't want to ruffle any feathers with these white people. Suppose these other groups didn't organize and stand up for what was right and honorable. You know what I mean? That's how it is today, actually. They were better off back in 1947 than we have it actually right now. The media back then, the black media was a lot more powerful because now we have these outlets that consider themselves or call themselves black media, but they're just sock puppets usually for some white supremacist liberals. All they do is push agendas when saying something is racism or calling out racism fits their agenda or what they're trying to do, and that's usually something with the LGBTQ or some other nonsense that they have going on. To me, that's cowardly, that's fake, and actually is evil. Racism is racism, Satanism is Satanism, Zionism, whatever. I don't care who is in office, but this is how white supremacists in America operate, whether they be liberals or conservatives. But great story about Rosalie Ingram and her sons. Great story about the media, the black media, and what black people did back in 1947. Easy.